You tell yourself, I'll do it tomorrow, even after promising yourself you'd start today. What if procrastination isn't just stealing your time, but quietly destroying your mental health? In this video, I'll share 7 hidden psychological costs, backed by neuroscience, that reveal what procrastination is really doing to your brain, and how to stop the damage before it's too late. I discovered the true cost of procrastination when I started researching why I felt anxious, even on my rest days. Turns out, psychologists at Case Western Reserve University found that chronic procrastinators don't just miss deadlines, they suffer measurable damage to their mental and physical health. The problem is, most people think procrastination is just a productivity issue, but it's actually a psychological trap that compounds every single day. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what's happening in your brain when you procrastinate and the exact steps to break free. Let's dive in. Now here's where it gets interesting, and it's not what most people think. Cost number 1, the anxiety procrastination loop. When you procrastinate, you're not actually avoiding the task, you're avoiding the feeling associated with that task. It could be fear of failure, perfectionism, or just feeling overwhelmed. But here's the trap. The moment you delay, your brain gets a small hit of relief, which actually trains you to procrastinate more. Research from Dr. Timothy Peichel at Carleton University reveals that procrastination is essentially emotion regulation gone wrong. Your amygdala, the part of your brain that processes emotions, sees the task as a threat, so you seek short-term mood repair by scrolling social media or watching YouTube. But that unfinished task, it's still there, lurking in the back of your mind, creating what psychologists call background anxiety. This constant low-level stress never lets your nervous system fully relax, even when you're supposedly taking a break. First, name the emotion you're avoiding. Ask yourself, what am I actually afraid of with this task? Is it judgment, complexity, boredom? Second, use the 10-minute rule. Commit to working on the task for just 10 minutes. Number more, no less. This bypasses your amygdala's threat response because 10 minutes doesn't feel scary. Third, track your anxiety levels before and after. You'll notice something fascinating. Your anxiety is almost always higher before starting than during the actual work. For instance, instead of thinking, I need to finish this entire report, try, I'll write just the introduction for 10 minutes. But that's just the surface level. The next cost goes even deeper. This next one is crucial, and most people don't realize it's happening. Cost number 2, the erosion of self-trust. Every time you break a promise to yourself, I'll start tomorrow, I'll wake up early next week, you're sending a message to your subconscious that you can't be trusted. It's like having a friend who constantly cancels plans. Eventually, you stop believing them. Your brain does the same thing with you. Psychologist Dr. Kristen Neff's research on self-compassion reveals that self-trust is the foundation of mental resilience. When you chronically procrastinate, you create what's called cognitive dissonance, the gap between who you want to be and who you're actually being. Your brain has to reconcile this gap, and it does so by lowering your self-image. You start identifying as lazy, undisciplined, or someone who can't follow through. Stanford psychologist Dr. B.J. Fogg found that behavior change requires believing you're capable of change. Procrastination systematically destroys that belief, one broken promise at a time. First, stop making big promises. Instead of I'll completely overhaul my life, start with I'll make my bed every morning for 1 week. Keep the bar so low it's almost embarrassing, because you need wins. Second, create an integrity journal. Every night, write down one tiny promise you kept to yourself that day, no matter how small. I said I'd drink water, and I did. This rewires your brain to see yourself as trustworthy. Third, when you do procrastinate, don't pile on with self-criticism. Research shows self-compassion actually increases future motivation, while self-criticism triggers shame, which leads to more procrastination. For example, instead of, I'm such a failure for not starting, try, I struggled today, and that's human. Tomorrow, I'll try one small thing. Now, let's talk about something even more powerful and more dangerous. Now, you might be thinking, but I'm still getting stuff done eventually, right? Here's the hidden problem. Cost number 3, decision fatigue overload. Every uncompleted task sitting on your mental to-do list is like an app running in the background on your phone, draining your battery. Psychologists call this cognitive load, and procrastination multiplies it exponentially. You're not just managing the tasks you need to do, you're also managing the guilt, anxiety, and mental gymnastics of avoiding them. Dr. Roy Baumeister's research on decision fatigue shows that your willpower is a finite resource. Every decision you make throughout the day depletes it, but here's what most people miss. Deciding to procrastinate is also a decision. In fact, it's often multiple decisions. Should I start now? Maybe after lunch? Or after this episode? Each micro-decision drains your mental energy. Meanwhile, the Zeigarnik effect, discovered by psychologist Bluma Zeigarnik, shows that unfinished tasks occupy significantly more mental space than completed ones. Your brain literally can't let go of them. So you're carrying around 10, 20, maybe 50 unfinished mental tabs, all screaming for attention, all the time. First, do a brain dump every morning. Write down every task, worry, and random thought cluttering your mind. Just the act of externalizing it reduces cognitive load by up to 30%, according to research from Wake Forest University. Second, use the 2-minute rule from David Allen's Getting Things Done. If something takes less than 2 minutes, do it immediately, no exceptions. This prevents small tasks from accumulating into overwhelming cognitive debt. Third, implement done lists instead of just to-do lists. At the end of each day, write down what you did complete. This gives your brain the closure it craves and signals that tasks actually get finished. For instance, instead of staring at 15 uncompleted items, you see, responded to 5 emails, made that phone call, organized desk. This next cost attacks the very core of who you are. Cost number 4, the identity crisis. Procrastination creates a split identity. The powerful candidate is the person you imagine yourself to be, organized, disciplined, successful, and the person you actually are based on your actions. The wider this gap becomes, the more you experience what psychologists call existential anxiety, a deep, unsettling feeling that you're not living the life you're supposed to be living. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, emphasizes that every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. When you procrastinate repeatedly, you're voting for an identity you don't actually want. Neuroscience research from UCLA shows that your brain forms your self-concept based on behavioral patterns, not intentions. So even if you genuinely intend to be disciplined, if your behavior is consistent procrastination, your neural pathways strengthen the identity of procrastinator. This creates a psychological phenomenon called learned helplessness. First identified by Martin Seligman, you start believing that change is impossible, that this is just who you are, which becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. First, shift from outcome-based goals to identity-based goals. Instead of, I want to write a book, try, I'm becoming someone who writes every day. This subtle shift changes your brain's focus from the overwhelming endpoint to the daily behavior. Second, create identity anchors, small, consistent actions that reinforce your desired identity. If you want to be a healthy person, your anchor might be drinking water first thing every morning. It's not about the water. It's about proving to yourself daily that you're someone who keeps health commitments. Third, audit your language. Notice how often you say, I'm just lazy, or I'm bad at following through. Replace these with I'm learning to manage my energy better, or I'm building consistency skills. Language literally shapes neural pathways. For example, when you slip up, instead of, see, I'm a procrastinator, try, I procrastinated on this task, but that doesn't define me. Now here's a cost that affects your relationships more than you'd think. Most people don't realize that procrastination doesn't just affect you. it damages your relationships too. Cost number 5, relationship deterioration. When procrastination dominates your life, you become unreliable. You cancel plans because you have to catch up on work. You miss birthdays because you forgot to order the gift. You arrive late because you left things until the last minute. Each instance seems small, but they accumulate, slowly eroding trust and connection with the people who matter most. Dr. John Gottman's relationship research identifies reliability as one of the core pillars of trust. When you're chronically behind on your own commitments, you become what he calls emotionally unavailable, physically present, but mentally consumed by the weight of undone tasks. The American Psychological Association found that chronic procrastinators report higher levels of guilt and shame in their relationships. You start avoiding people, not because you don't care, but because facing them means facing reminders of who you're not being. Meanwhile, your loved ones internalize your unreliability as a lack of care or respect, even when that's not your intention at all. First, separate your relationship commitments from your personal tasks. Use a different calendar or system specifically for promises made to others, and treat these as non-negotiable. Second, practice radical honesty about your capacity. If you're overwhelmed, say, "I'm dealing with some personal deadlines right now. Can we plan this for next week instead?" People respect honesty far more than last-minute cancellations. Third, create a weekly relationship maintenance hour, 60 minutes specifically for reaching out, following up, and staying connected. It sounds transactional, but scheduling relationships actually honors them. For instance, instead of thinking, "I should call mom when I have time," schedule "call mom Sundays at 10 a.m. You'll never have time. You have to make it. This brings me to the next secret, and it's about something happening in your body right now. Here's where procrastination stops being just a mental issue and becomes a physical one. Cost number 6, chronic stress and physical health decline. That nagging feeling of unfinished business, it triggers a constant, low-grade stress response in your body. Your nervous system stays in a state of mild fight or flight, releasing cortisol throughout the day. Unlike acute stress, which is actually healthy, this chronic stress never gives your body a chance to recover. Research from Dr. Fushia Siroz at the University of Sheffield found that chronic procrastinators have significantly higher levels of stress, and consequently, more health problems, from headaches and digestive issues to cardiovascular disease. Here's the mechanism. When your brain perceives an unfinished task as a threat, your hypothalamus signals your adrenal glands to release cortisol. Normally, cortisol spikes briefly, then returns to baseline. But with procrastination, you have multiple ongoing threats, all those delayed tasks, so cortisol stays elevated. Over time, this suppresses your immune system, disrupts sleep, increases inflammation, and even shrinks the hippocampus, the part of your brain responsible for memory and learning. You're literally making yourself sick by putting things off. First, implement stress relief. Closures. At the end of your workday, write down exactly where you left off and what the next step is. This signals to your brain that the task is contained and doesn't need active monitoring overnight. Second, practice body-based procrastination detection. Notice the physical sensations: tight chest, shallow breathing, tension in your jaw. When you feel these, pause and ask, "What am I avoiding right now?" Then do just the first tiny step. Third, create clear work boundaries. Research shows that procrastinators struggle most with ambiguous schedules. Try, "I work on this specific project from 9 to 11 a.m., then it's closed until tomorrow." This gives your nervous system permission to actually rest. For example, instead of "I should work on this proposal sometime today," keeping stress active for 16 hours, try "proposal work 2 to 4 p.m. only," limiting stress to 2 hours. Finally, let's talk about the ultimate cost, the one that ties everything together. This last one is the most painful because, unlike the others, you can't fix it once it's gone. Cost number 7, lost potential and future regret. Every day you procrastinate, is a day you don't move toward your goals, develop your skills, or become who you're capable of being. Time is the only resource you can never get back. The compound cost of procrastination isn't just today's unfinished task. It's the person you never became, the opportunities you never took, the life you never lived. Bronnie Ware, a palliative care nurse, documented the top regrets of the dying. Number 1, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Procrastination is the gap between intention and action, between who you want to be and who you're being. Dr. Hal Hirschfield's research at UCLA shows that our brains treat our future self as a stranger. We don't feel emotional connection to who we'll be in 5, 10, or 20 years. So sacrificing that stranger's well-being for our present comfort feels acceptable. But time is merciless. That future self eventually becomes your present self, facing the consequences of years of delayed action. The tragedy isn't just what you didn't accomplish, it's who you didn't become. First, write a letter from your 80-year-old self to your current self. What would that person want you to know? What would they beg you to start today? This creates emotional connection with your future self. Second, calculate your life in weeks. If you live to 80, that's about 4,000 weeks. How many have you already used? How many remain? Print a grid and mark off the weeks you've lived. This isn't morbid. It's clarifying. When you see your life as finite squares, not infinite, some days priorities shift dramatically. Third, implement the 4070 rule. From Colin Powell. When you have between 40 to 70% of the information you need, make the decision and act. Waiting for perfect clarity is just procrastination wearing a disguise. For example, instead of, I'll start my business when I know everything, try, I have enough to take the first step. I'll learn the rest as I go. Let's quickly review what we covered today. Number 1, the anxiety procrastination loop. You're training your brain to seek temporary relief while creating permanent background stress. Number 2, erosion of self-trust. Every broken promise to yourself lowers your self-image and belief in your capability. Number 3, decision fatigue overload. Unfinished tasks drain your mental energy 24/7, leaving you exhausted, even when you're resting. Number 4, the identity crisis. The gap between who you want to be and who your behavior says you are creates existential anxiety. Number 5, relationship deterioration. Your unreliability erodes trust and connection with the people who matter most. Number 6, chronic stress and physical health decline. Constant low-grade stress literally changes your brain and damages your body. Number 7, lost potential and future regret. Time you can never recover and the person you never became. Remember, procrastination isn't a character flaw, it's a habit, and habits can be changed. You have everything you need to break this cycle. The only difference between someone who procrastinates chronically and someone who takes consistent action is this. One decided that today matters more than someday, that the discomfort of starting is worth more than the comfort of avoiding. Don't wait until you've lost another year to the same patterns. Don't wait until the anxiety becomes unbearable or your relationships are strained beyond repair. Start with just one technique from this video. Choose the one that resonated most and implement it today, not tomorrow, today. I promise you, 6 months from now, when you look back at this moment, you'll thank yourself for starting when you did. If you found this helpful, hit that like button. It helps more people discover these insights. Subscribe for more psychology-based self-improvement content that actually works. Drop a comment telling me which of these 7 costs hit hardest for you, or which technique you're going to try first. And if you want to learn the exact daily system I use to maintain consistency, check out the video on my anti-procrastination morning routine. Next, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.